Once upon a time, a long time ago, in a time far away from this time, there was an old lady who lived in a vinegar bottle. Now, I'm not sure whether the vinegar bottle was an extremely big vinegar bottle or she was a very small lady. We'll know. But she lived in a vinegar bottle. She had a roof over her head. She had enough food to eat each day. She made bread each day. And she didn't really have an awful lot of chores to do because it was only a little house. But you know how it is. We always wish for something that we maybe don't have. And on this occasion, the woman, she'd seen every time she went down to the village to get her groceries that there were some people who lived in lovely little thatched cottages with roses up the wall and wisteria. And, well, she thought, wouldn't it be nice? She could have a little fire in the hearth. Okay, it would be a slightly bigger house to clean, but she'd be closer to the market. She wouldn't have to walk so far. It would be wonderful. And she was muttering this to herself as she was sweeping out the vinegar bottle one day when what flew past her was a little fairy. Now, some say this might have been a goddess, and again, we'll never really know. But let's say it was a fairy. And she flew past the house and she heard the woman wishing for somewhere a little bit bigger to live. One of these cottages with the roses and the wisteria. And she said, "I can do that for you." And the old woman stopped and she listened. She said, "Really?" She said, "Yes. Why don't you go home tonight and lie down in your bed, go to sleep, turn around 3 times and wake up and you shall see what you shall see." She went to bed, she spun around 3 times and she woke up in the cottage she had dreamed of. A little thatched cottage with wisteria and roses and the birds singing in the gardens. It was blissful. She was very, very happy. She was able to just walk down to the market and get whatever fruit and veg she wanted. She was now able to make bread in a magnificent bread oven and there was a fire all day. It was a lovely life. Now, the fairy, she flew north, she flew south, she flew east, she flew west. She did all the things that fairies do around the year. And then she thought, perhaps I ought to just go and check on that lady who used to live in the vinegar bottle and see if she is happy with her cottage. And so she went back and she saw the lady and she said, "Do you like your cottage with the wisteria and the roses and the birds singing in the garden?" And the woman said, "Well, do you know what? I've lived here for a year. And yeah, it's lovely. But I go to and from town now and I see the big townhouses and I think, oh, that would be nicer. They're so much warmer and they have a servant to light the fires for them and a servant to make their dinners for them. So if I could have a townhouse and just one servant, well, that would be wonderful." And so the fairy said, "Well, I tell you what, you go home and you go to sleep and you turn around 3 times and see what you shall see." And so that is what the lady did. And so the woman turned around 3 times. She went to sleep and she woke up here. She loved her manor house and the servant that would make sure that her bed was warm at night, wake her up with the smell of fresh bread and stoke the fires. And then she started to go to and from the city. And she saw all the opulence that was there and the luxury. And she saw the king and the queen in their palace and how the duke and the duchesses served them and that they too had servants and that they had silks and velvets for their clothes. And, well, yes, she started to wonder if that was maybe a better life than her manor house. And the fairy that had flown north, south, east, west again thought she would go and check on the lady that had once lived in a vinegar bottle. She thought she might see whether she liked the manor house or not. And so she went back and she said to the lady, "Do you love this lovely manor house?" And she said, "Well, yeah, it's all right. But I've been to London and I've seen the palace there and I've seen the king and the queen and they are in charge of everyone. And I think that it would be a much better life to be in charge of everyone and have all the servants and all the power. And I would like that, please." "Very well," said the fairy. "Why don't you turn around 3 times and go to sleep and you shall see what you shall see." When she she woke up the next morning, she found herself in a beautiful four-poster bed with many maids to wait on her, who got her dressed in the morning, and she found that she came down to a throne where there were many, many people waiting to speak to her. Yes, she was queen, but she soon realised that there were a lot of people who wanted something from her. She had to pass laws, she had to make judgments, and, well, she had to make sure that everybody had work. She spent the year as queen, and she soon tired of all the cares that came with being a queen. And that fairy, she flew north, she flew south, she flew west, she flew east. And eventually she visited the queen and she said, "So, how is it being queen? Is it everything you hoped for? Is the palace amazing? Has it got enough gold for you? Have you got enough velvets and lace and silk?" And, well, the woman replied, "Yes, all of that is very nice, but the cares that come with it, oh, they are too much. What I would like is I would like to be a goddess, I think. A goddess, because they don't really have any cares, do they? And, well, they are immortal. Surely that would be the pinnacle of existence." And the fairy, she looked at the woman. She said nothing, but she knew what it was to be a goddess. For as I say, who knows whether this was a fairy or a goddess? But just a little heads up, people. You don't generally ask a god or goddess to be a god or goddess. It doesn't normally go down very well. The fairy said to the woman, "Turn around 3 times, and in the morning you will wake up and see what you shall see." When the woman woke up, she opened her eyes. She looked up at the ceiling, for there was a ceiling, which is not what she was expecting. And then she looked around a little bit more. She realised she was back in her vinegar bottle. As she went about her day's work, she realised that yes, she did not have any cares. She had some responsibilities. She had to bake some bread and she had to sweep the floors and make sure her little house was kept clean, but she did not have the worries of running a house or even a country. And so yes, the fairy had granted her wish. She no longer had any cares. And, well, you may ask, what about that immortality? Well, she kind of was immortal, because she lives on in this story, and every time you tell this story, the vinegar bottle is remembered, and so is the woman who lived within it. My name's Dawn and I am a professional storyteller. I regularly work here at Weald Downland Museum, and if you'd like to hear more from me and from the museum, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channels and our socials. We'll see you again soon.